Have you ever dreamed of joining us as a co-host of Med-Surg Moments? If so, that dream might just be one step closer to becoming a reality.
Soon, AMSN will be initiating a nationwide search for 2 new co-hosts to join our Med-Surg Moments team.
Wait, don't they need a whole bunch of podcast experience like us?
Eric, they'll need exactly as much experience as we had when we started, which was 0. So if you're listening, don't worry, no podcast experience is required. Just a passion for Med-Surg nursing and an AMSN membership.
Keep a close eye on your email in early November, as AMSN will be sending out a co-host survey application to all AMSN members. Complete the application by the deadline to take the first step in the co-host selection process.
The email and survey application will also include everything you need to know about the time commitment and the volunteer term. So keep an eye on that inbox in early November, and good luck.
On this episode of Med-Surg Moments.
So we're at the airport, and honestly, I was just so tired. And Caroline's like, look, there's a bus that says Sheraton. So I was like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yes, it's so...
This is Eric.
Maritess.
Sydney. Sam.
Neo.
And Laura. Welcome to Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
We're proud Med-Surg nurses just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
We're back again here in Toronto at the 2024 AMSN Annual Convention. Also with us as special guest co-host is former Med-Surg Moments co-host Alissa Brown.
That's right. And in this episode, we'll be telling you what really happened here in Toronto as we share our true stories from this year's convention. Who wants to get us started?
I guess I'll get us started. It's been a great time coming in. I had the pleasure of bumping into Caroline at the airport, totally unplanned. I'm just sitting there lying jet lagged from having worked the 3 days before coming here. And I look up, I'm like, wait, that's Caroline. And the worst part is in my brain, I had the battle. Does she know she's getting the President Award? Like, because we've talked about, like, you know, we're bringing her in, she doesn't. And I'm just sitting there, like, just being like, genuinely like, hey, Caroline, how's it going? So good to see you. How's everything been? Haven't seen you, you know, glad you made it. And then she opened up, I was like, oh, I'm getting the President's Award and everything. I was like, oh, great. You know, like, acting like I didn't know, but I was like, yeah, I know.
That's awesome.
I'll share our embarrassing, funny moment behind the scenes. So we're at the airport, and honestly, I was just so tired. And Caroline's like, look, there's a bus that says Sheraton. So I was like, okay, great.
No.
Yes. And so we get on the bus, and there's a Sheraton airport hotel that's right nearby. And we get off and we're like, Caroline, as calm and cool as she be, well, this ain't our hotel. I don't know where we are, you know?
Oh.
And so we sit there and have to jump a cab to this hotel eventually. And so we finally made it here. And it was just great catching up with her. And it's great when we come to convention. I love it because like last year, Maritess and I got to hang out a little bit by ourselves and just doing some cab time in the back of the taxi and catching up on stuff. And it's just always interesting. And then Laura and I and Caroline were hanging out last night, just having those private conversations and get to know each other better as humans. Mm-hmm. So that was the great start to it. And then the great session I saw yesterday was on leadership. Kind of one of our roses and thorns we do, even though we're unofficially doing one, is I have a big leadership speech I'm giving Monday at one of the colleges that I might work for coming up. And a lot of the bigger speakers are talking about leadership. And it's so instrumental as Med-Surg nurses. I don't need a title to be a leader. And I think, was it Maritess? Did you have this posted?
Yes, I did at some point.
LinkedIn, I think.
Because it's so true.
That you don't need a title to be a leader, but just because you're a leader doesn't mean you don't have a title. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it's all about you leading yourself.
Yeah.
And you can lead others.
And so I've pulled a little divine intervention. I'm going to try to scribble down my speech before I get back to North Carolina on Monday. And then I tell you, one of the best things that's happened here was one of the sayings I've come to steal from Simon Sinek, a motivational speaker, hanging out with Laura and Caroline last night. We just got comfortable being in the mud together and just talking about life. We put our RN badges down at the table. We broke bread, which is one of the greatest things you do to really get to know your cohorts and friends truly. And not to, I guess, because we have a virtual table we sit at, but to sit at a table and they always say, you are the 5 people you're around. And all of you ladies have influenced me in such a different way, but just sitting there last night and away went our nursing titles, away went our gender roles and everything else that are so different. And we're like, wow, it was probably one of the most human experiences I ever had. And there was just something we all shared about being human together that is invaluable to any kind of title that any of us are and have. It was just a really beautiful moment. And it's part of our why we're nurses, because at the end, like I sit there and look across and be like, you're the 2 of the hugest hearts I've met, professionally speaking, not only genuine people, but genuine nurses. So I thank you, Laura, for that time last night.
Yeah, it was special. I had a wonderful time visiting with the 2 of you because we're nurses and we connect as nurses. But last night we got to connect as people. It was really good. It was really special.
And I think that's one of the amazing things about convention, though, is that it brings all of us together. And while we come together because we're Med-Surg nurses, the convention allows that space for you to go beyond that, right?
Yeah, because we're more than just nurses.
Yeah. You may have come together for that common ground, but then you get to move beyond that when you're here.
And I like how you said it, Neil, with breaking the bread, or you broke the bread in one table, because I think that's so important. It's sharing a part of yourself. And when you said that you do that in a convention, it's a space to really allow yourself to be out there, because we all share the same experiences. And it's so important to hear that from another nurse, that you're not alone. You know, this is a thing that's happening everywhere, and having that conversations when you share that. That's
absolutely
amazing.
Yeah, it sparked a lot of those conversations. I think I mentioned before that I have a poster presented downstairs. So this morning I was standing
Proud of you, Laura. Congratulations.
Thank you. This morning I was standing by my poster. So people were walking around and asking me about my project. So I got to speak about my project. And then they would tell me their stories and how it might fit into their workspace. And so it just sparked some great conversations from nurses that are all over the country. Well, all over
The world.
2 countries. Yeah.
And even Laura, you know, like last night, I was in awe of you. I'll say that, like, before we even went out to dinner and learned the amazing parent you are, I was sitting there like, okay, I got my next thing on my checklist to do. You motivated me to be like, I could do this too.
It's inspiring being here around the different people that you get to meet. The speakers are obviously amazing. Our opening speaker, his name was Lee Rubin, and he talked a little bit about leadership, but it was more about being a change agent. It was more about what you can do to create the team around you to be successful in whatever project that is, no matter how big or small. It was very inspiring.
I wholeheartedly agree. I walked away from that opening ceremony so empowered that I went back and wrote an email to my team with the key highlights. And then when I was talking to my boss later in the day, she said she was sitting with another director and loved my email so much. And the title of it was Sharing is Caring. And so she was like, you're right. So I immediately forwarded it to her. It was so inspiring. Some of the key things that he was saying is, if you want to go fast, you go alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to go far, you go with a team. I think nurses really grab onto those things, those quick little
Tidbits.
Yeah, those little tidbits we hold on to. And then one of the other things that really stood out to me, because I'm a leader, is leaders who don't listen soon become surrounded by people who stop talking. That resonated with me so much, because I've been around leaders who don't listen, and I do stop talking. And does that sound like something I would do? Like a talker.
But you would leave. I mean,
I did leave. Yes, I did leave. So opening ceremony was such an amazing session.
I love that you used the word empowered. You didn't say I was inspired, I was moved. You said empower.
Yes.
Empower means action.
Yes, because I had
An email.
I went and sent an email to my team.
Yeah.
How many say, oh, I'm inspired? Then the next day you're like, oh, what was I supposed to do? Like,
But even his presentation, I mean, the way that he was so interactive and having us repeat the things back to him, and he had audience engagement. Yeah, he did such an amazing job to make sure that we did leave empowered.
During Ernest Grant's speech, I noticed a lot of the leadership speakers have mentioned also advocacy. Not only a patient advocate, but a nurse advocate, whether it's making sure a doctor is being more on top of their game, calling doctors out. And I hate to say it that way, we don't work for a doctor, we work with a doctor. And a good nurse is a checks and balance to a doctor. Hey, are we checking this hemoglobin after a while? Are we checking this iron? Because if its hemoglobin's good and there's still something going on, are we looking at that iron right after that? Are we pursuing it, being an advocate for our patient, but with each other and nurses? So what I love about informal leadership is it's that nurse you know that you can look to for answers for situations, or as we were talking about being a med-surg nurse, like, oh, I know Maritess is super strong at drips, or orthopedics has a whole different way of moving a patient that you may have only had one or two like that. So it's like having that informal leader. And when I talk to cohorts, and I guess I'm just going to assume a informal leadership in that sense of like, hey, are you certified yet? If you're going to be my assistant nurse manager, what are you doing to better yourself? Have you become certified? Since I've been certified, I've done some test bank writing questions with AMSN. Awesome. I've had this awesome experience, which always just leads into something else, into something else, into something else. Just by one simple step of becoming certified in Med-Surg nursing. And we kind of had that chatter in that one group, in that session. Med-Surg nursing, unfortunately, you'll hear it's the Walmart. I think that one, and that was so disturbing.
No, I did not agree with that comment at all.
So I know where those mindsets are coming from. So I'll say, as the floor unit, we get a junkyard of people. We get this floor that has an ortho patient, a cardiac patient, a kidney patient. It's kind of a junkyard of collection. But guess what I am? I am black ops. You give me a dialysis patient, you give me an ortho patient, they give me ortho trauma, which is different than ortho planned.
Yep, exactly.
You give me CHF, you name it, I'm there. I do feel like black ops. You just throw my stethoscope on, you get dropped down into a unit. I got this. There's nothing you're going to throw my way that I'm going to be like, oh my God, I've never done this. I've done it all and then some. So in my speech and leadership, I'm going to emphasize it is a certification and it's a way of life. We don't bat our eyes at anything. And you always do hear that in nursing school, like, oh, cut your teeth in Med-Surg and then move on to what you want. And unfortunately, a lot of the younger people I went to nursing school with, oh, I'm going to do ICU and then go and be CRNA and leave the bedside. Where the bread and butter is, the calling is to the bedside and to the people. So where I might be doing that nurse education, that will be part-time and I'll be staying full-time at the bedside.
That's awesome.
We've got another special guest with us here. We have our AMSN president, Marisa Streelman. Hi, Marisa.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
We're doing great. We're sharing all the fun that we're having at the convention.
Well, I'm having a great time too. I am just so surprised that we've had such a great turnout this year in Canada. It's just so exciting.
First international convention.
Is it really the first international? Oh, that's awesome.
And 700 plus, I heard, or 800. Did we reach 800?
Yeah, I think we reached 800.
Nice. Wow.
Which is just amazing. And we've had, we have some nurses here from Canada. We have some from Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
Yeah. And obviously a large portion from the US. So
nice. We'll have to find our Saudi Arabia friends because we have a big podcast following in Saudi Arabia.
Really?
We should find them. Yes.
It's Saudi Arabia and Oman. Because I saw the statistics. Oman, yeah.
So Marisa, what has been your favorite part? What have you enjoyed? Any good stories so far?
Well, I will say that for me personally, the AMSN convention, I really enjoy seeing all of my old colleagues. And when they aren't here, there's just like a little piece missing at convention. So, and they weren't at convention last year, so they're here. And so it's just so fantastic. And it is some of my very first Med-Surg nurses when I became a manager of 13 West at Northwestern many moons ago. And they are here. And so they said, we're so glad you're here and we need a picture with you. My manager. And they still call me their manager.
That's cute.
And I haven't been their manager in 15 years. But
oh, wow.
Yes.
You're the OG.
Yes. But they are here. And I just so love seeing them and chatting and just finding out what's going on. And you just fall in step. And I think that's a little bit of what we were talking about in quite a few of the sessions about when you are a Med-Surg nurse and you have this team and you have this connection. You have your common goal.
Yes.
You have your chemistry.
Yes.
And you are working together so well that those feelings and those emotions, they stay with you for years.
Yeah.
And so I think those are the pieces that come back to you full circle when you see those friendly faces and when you see those people and you remember those stories and you remember those interactions. So those are the pieces that I just love, as well as all of the AMSN colleagues, of course, that we meet and that we know throughout the years. So those are some of the personal notes. I think from the AMSN side, we were just so pleased to be able to announce the AMSN Fellows. That was a big piece this year.
Cool.
Yeah. And we were able to bring in 10 of our AMSN colleagues who have been able to make an impact not only for AMSN, but also for medical surgical nurses and advocating for the specialty of Med-Surg. So really that is going to be a focus, and you'll hear more about that going into the next year and years to come for some of our new fellows, hopefully going into 2025. So that was exciting. And then I think for me, the Founders Award, which is named after our 6 founders for AMSN, Alice Poise, who was here with us at the conference and one of our fellows. That was exciting to have her there. And the Founders Award went to Dr. Ernest Grant.
Yeah.
And hearing him speak today was just fantastic. So
Yeah. Dr. Grant was really amazing this morning.
I'll share. Dr. Grant was actually the person who motivated me to be part of advocacy. So there was one conference. I met him in person, and after the speech, I approached him and I said, I really want to be involved. And what he said, it's all about active membership. You may be a member for a long time, but you have to be an active member. From then on, when he said that, I started looking for opportunities to volunteer, to advocate, to do the policy, whatever he said in that speech today, it still resonates with me because it's true. It's us. We need to start it, and we influence others to do the same. And that would be for our patients.
Well, it was interesting today when he was talking about if you don't have a seat at the table, bring your own.
Yes.
That reminded me of you.
Yes. Yes.
Because you've said it, similar things on this before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's what it means. You have to be really actively involved.
Yeah.
You can't be a change agent if you're just like pointing fingers. You need to do this, you need to do that.
Right.
You need to be there at the table
And be a part of the
speak up.
solution, making solutions. Yeah.
You could apply that in any aspect. You can't just come and lay your problems at anybody's feet if you don't also have a solution on how to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Be willing to work on it with.
Yes, exactly.
What I liked that he shared, he was talking about the legislators and how even though we have this large collective voice as nurses, the legislator he was talking to was really only concerned with his constituents. So that tells me that I need to get involved on my local level.
Yes.
So I need to get involved with legislators that I am a constituent of.
I actually met Monica.
Vanderzee.
Yes.
So Monica Vanderzee, she is chair for the Medical Surgical Nursing Staffing Task Force.
Yes. She was in our podcast last year.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
I met
And there was familiar.
Yeah. I
Yes.
was like,
And so when I saw her, I said, do you remember we met last year in the podcast? And I remember asking her how to be involved. But then something happened. I wasn't involved in that task force. I was involved in my own state organization. But that was really an eye-opener, being able to hear the things that we can do and be out there. Just go out there and be involved with everything that you think you wanted to do for your patient and for your nurses as well.
Yeah, Monica also worked with the ANA on their staffing guidelines, and she was a representative for AMSN on that as well. And so now she's taking over kind of our specialty staffing guidelines as well.
Thank God for Monica for doing that. Because it does require really consistency. Going back to Lee Rubin's, consistency, being consistent on what you're doing.
That opening was so good.
So I'll tag with your story. So after that opening as well. So if you send an email, I send a WebEx to my team.
Oh, you
And
did?
it's so weird. They're like, are you okay? Because what I said was, I'm so grateful for working with you all. And I'm so blessed that I'm working alongside with you all. And then they were like, are you okay? Are you?
is this your goodbye note?
Oh my God, I forgot to tell them I'm in a conference. This is more of like a
Attitude of gratitude.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the trust because of the open communication. My team, we love to discuss situations that are uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And I think we have developed that space wherein it doesn't matter if it's bad or if it's going to go wrong. It's such an open space. There are no leaders. I always tell them, I'm not your boss. There are no bosses here. We're all in the same level, and I'm just here to lead you. But you need to tell me what's going on. And that really resonated a lot, because I think when Lee Rubin said, you need to build that trust to any person, that's super powerful. So I sent him a WebEx, but they thought something's wrong with me.
They're like, she's going to be detained in Canada. We're never going to see her again.
Right. She's quitting. It's always that, like, you get that nice hug right before they quit. To speak to it, like I said, like, it's nice to know your staff could be comfortable in the mud with you. That doesn't mean you were their manager. It means you were their leader. I'm late to the game here, but Caroline's kind of the leader, the OG of that. She led the way when this started with you, Alissa.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to pitch with the leader.
Yeah.
She didn't manage us, but she led by awesome example, always coming, always on point with everything. The podcast stays great. It's just a different podcast. I was with her, but she led the way for this now. In 5 more years, hopefully it will change. Maritess, you'll be Caroline, receiving awards for doing all the education. I'll be Laura. Eric will eventually be me. It just kind of shifts, but that's what leadership does. It inspires, empowers.
I think it also speaks to why you want to get involved, because it does inspire you to do something different, to get more involved, to find another project or another way that you can contribute.
Yes.
And I want to celebrate Laura, because she really inspired me to write.
Good.
So
I'm surprised, but yeah.
Good job, Laura.
Thank you. Yes.
Because we did that in the podcast. And I never really tried writing something, but Laura and I were talking about it. As educators, we can probably write like 20 abstracts about everything that we're doing each day.
Yeah, I stopped being scared. I think being here and being around and seeing all the projects that were out there, I was no longer afraid to put my own work out there, because I didn't feel afraid. Okay, my project was not as successful as I wanted it to be, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot through that process. Talking with these nurses that walked by and hearing their stories and talking through that language really has been amazing for me this time. It's been a little bit different.
I want to celebrate another Med-Surg nurse. Last year, one of my students, I think I mentioned it in a podcast too, he was one of the poster presenters. And this year, he also presented a poster again for the second time.
That's awesome.
And they got the organizational award, the Kathleen Singleton Award. And so when they were in the stage, I was telling one of my colleagues, Gail, and I said, that was my student in the Philippines. He was my student.
You taught him in the Philippines?
Yes. I was a clinics instructor, faculty in the Philippines.
See, isn't it amazing as an educator, you just had even if it was just a pebble, like they say, a pebble being dropped in the water, ripple effect, that you started that way then, and you get to see him here now.
Yes. This is so amazing, surreal, because when he was a student, I keep on telling him he's going to go places. Because I know he's so smart. He's so amazing. And so seeing him on the stage, I was taking pictures. Just I'm so proud of him.
Now, how old is he now?
I do not know, really, but this is his second poster. So I talked to him about it, and I said, you need to push yourself some more. There's more things that you can do. How did you do the pathway? Maybe you need to write something about how to do pathway to organize, to whatever you're doing. He said that it was really inspiring, and they're really moving towards encouraging everybody.
Highly encouraging volunteering.
To write.
Voluntolding.
Write more of their practices, because they're really impacting a lot of them.
And you learn, whether it's successful or not successful, you learn something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to mention his name, Edgar Lenin Maritess. He's a manager of one of the units in Methodist Hospital. So really, congratulations. So very proud.
Oh, I think we've talked to him before for PRISM Awards, right?
Yes, they did PRISM, I think a few years ago.
Maritess touching lives.
No.
But that's what I think fills the buckets of educators is that impact you have, right? When you watch the impact as an educator, and then that nurse has an impact on their patients, and it's that ripple effect, like you said, that's really what fills the soul for you when you go out and touch the lives of other nurses. So you're getting to see it firsthand. That's amazing, because so many times when you go out and teach, you don't see that return. You never see that nurse again. So That's amazing that you get to see that return to you.
All the way from the Philippines too.
Yes. All the way. Yep.
And that's almost how old he was. I was like, now he's a man. Like,
Do you remember my Florence Nightingale photo?
Yeah.
That was their capping and pinning ceremony.
That was the one, yes. Last episode you talked about, yeah.
But I hope Caroline's instructor is listening in our podcast.
Oh, right.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Well, I think that was one of my other favorite moments for this convention would be Caroline Ashman, her receiving the President's Award. That was a moment for me to be able to give back to her for all the work she did on the podcast, but also for the years that she has been working on the certification review course.
Yes.
And not even going out and teaching that in person, but also the online portion of that. And the multiple changes we've had over it throughout the years as the blueprint for the test has changed. Obviously, the education has to change along with that and be updated throughout the years. So I know she's been involved with this group for quite a while, but also just with AMSN for a long time and her acceptance speech as well. And so I will tell this group and of course all our listeners, but when I did call her and tell her that she won, she was like, I'm speechless.
Oh, we're just so unusual.
She goes, and that's hard to do, Marinette.
You do a better English accent for me.
I love her. She's so funny.
So I was really caught her off guard that morning.
That's the best.
It was great.
Yeah, she's hilarious. And I used her webinars to get certified. Like that's what's so fun about her is like she had multiple impacts on all of us here on the, not just as someone who was foundational in helping us build the podcast, but also she helped me get certified. She doesn't even know it.
And it's amazing. Like the things that other people do with being themselves.
Yeah, just being herself and having a convention recording webinar that she had done the previous year or something. And that was what was available for a study tool. And I used it and it was amazing. She's an amazing educator and her impact on the organization has been phenomenal. And I'm so happy that
I need to find that webinar. We try to encourage certification all the time. I think our rates have started to go down a little bit. So we've started to try to push to let people know how to get certified, where the resources are. So maybe I'll take a look and see if that webinar is still on there.
They are.
and I want to tag to that story because Caroline was actually the person who encouraged me to do the podcast. Because I'm like, I need to learn about this person. She is just so instrumental, like the impact of her words. I want to learn about her. I want to know her. I want to work with her because that's how you surround yourself with people that are positive, right? And you get to be that person too at some point. So,
Yeah, I want to touch on one more thing that I think we all talked about. The message that Med-Surg is a jumping off point for a lot of people and how we need to empower some of these younger nurses. A lot of these younger nurses are out there on social media. So I think we need to look into ways to leverage social media to help us pass that message along. That Med-Surg can be a place where you thrive as a nurse. It's not just a starting point or the foundation of your nursing career. It is a specialty.
Absolutely.
Yep.
There's always dark humor in nursing. We're like known for it, but I'm very careful in social media what I browse about with nursing because it is a hard job. And I'll say this as a man, I don't care. I've walked out of there almost in tears because I've put my heart on the line. And I think a challenge of Med-Surg that does make it difficult, we don't think about. If I get a cardiac cath patient and they come in, they go for a cath, they come back and I make sure they don't bleed when I pull out their site and everything. I have very tangible, accomplished goals at the end of the day.
Right.
As a Med-Surg nurse, I could have someone who's going through anemia and I give them 2 pints of blood and give them some iron, but guess what? They're still anemic at the end of it.
Right.
I think there's so much unresolved situations that you deal with that there's not that glory. Labor and delivery, we got her through her birth, she had her baby, here you go. It's very measurable, tangible goal. Med-Surg, and I'm just reflecting because I was thinking about the impact of social media. There's so many, I think, negative, especially Med-Surg. Like I said, that one lady said something about the Walmart of it. And
I did not about that.
That was, and because.
So we want to put more positive things out there.
And it's like, no, we're the backbone of most hospitals because most of the floors are going to be Med-Surg with a focus, Med-Surg ortho, as you were saying before, and Med-Surg neuro. So, Med-Surg nursing is where it's at, guys. Be cognizant of what you consume on social media.
I agree that nurses have dark humor. It's a requirement for you to make it through nursing. But I feel like that dark humor is reserved for the med room. because we're the only ones that actually understand it. That's not the perception that I want our patients to have of us, because when we're in the room with the patient should feel like they're the only one in the world right now, and they should have your full attention with your commitment to make them feel better and to meet their needs.
And I'll tell you, you know what adds to that? And I'm going to shamelessly plug. What does it mean when you're certified? Well, I'll tell you what it means. I went through extra training. I read extra questions, and I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than the average nurse on Med-Surg nursing. Honestly, I feel like that's a thing that helps build that more positive image of nursing.
And that trust.
Yep. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
the most important thing to have from your patient is that 10 or 15 extra minutes. I want to listen to you, and I build that trust.
And it really validates that you are specialized. Getting that certification, it validates that I already know what I'm doing. It validates the trust again from the patient.
Absolutely.
Well, believe it or not, we're just about out of time. After hearing all these great stories, we know you'll want to join us next year for the 2025 AMSN Annual Convention, which will take place in Austin, Texas. That's in September 11 to 13, 2025.
Also, before we go, we'd like to once again thanks Alissa for joining in both of our convention episodes as special guest co-host.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank Marisa for joining us on this episode. We appreciate you popping in and joining us with your storytelling.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of Med-Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to Med-Surg Moments wherever you listen to podcasts.
To reach us, use hashtag Med-Surg Moments on your social posts.
Or send us an email at amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
We're all AMSN members, and if you love Med-Surg Moments, we invite you to become a member of AMSN. You can learn more at www.amsn.org.
Finally, the content within the Med-Surg Moments podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses.
Until next time, this is Eric,
Laura,
Maritess,
Neo,
Sam?
And Sydney. And always remember, Med-Surg Moments is a moment in our lives and a moment in our Med-Surg careers that makes a huge difference.